Hello everybody, welcome to this instruction video. This video is for part 7 of the TLC blanket. Part 7 is this part here. You'll be learning to do popcorns. Those are these bubbles that you see here. And you'll be learning to work in front of stitches and behind stitches. And that's actually a very important skill to have, that you don't necessarily work into the row that was last made. You can also work into a different row. The yarn that I'm using is still Scheepjes Chunky Monkey, and I'm using this week a 5mm hook. I'll take you step by step through the rows that make up part 7. I hope it's a useful video for you, and I hope you learn a lot. Let's get started. Row 52. I'm going to continue where we left off last time, so I'm just going to pick up the loop, open the stitch marker. Actually keep a hold of your stitch marker, you're going to need it later on. Just going to open up this loop and put it on my hook. There we go. We're ready to get started. Start with the chain 3. And this counts as our first double crochet, so that's the first stitch worked. Come to the second stitch and work a double crochet on there. Now you have 2 stitches worked. I'm going to start a small repeat unit. Chain 1. Skip the next stitch, and then in the next 4 stitches work a double crochet. I'm going to skip this stitch and then work 1 in the next 4. So that's 1, 2, 3, and let's do it again, 4. There you go. So the chain 1, skip a stitch, 4 doubles. This you're going to repeat until you're almost to the end. You'll have 3 stitches left at the end. I'll show you the repeat again. Chain 1, skip a stitch, and then work 4 doubles. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now done the repeat twice, you're going to do quite a few more. You're going to do about 27 more, 28, 26, something like that. But basically until you're to the end. You'll have 3 stitches left. So I'll see you at the end for the last part of the row. So I'll see you when I have those 3 stitches left. But for now, work chain 1, skip a stitch, and then work 4 double crochets. And repeat this until you have 3 stitches left. After you've done your last repeat, you see here's my last repeat, I finished with the 4 doubles. You should have exactly 3 stitches left, 2 full ones and a turning chain 3. For these last stitches, work a chain 1, and skip the next stitch, and on the last 2 stitches work a double crochet on each. It's 1, and here on your turning chain is the second. So at the top of that chain is the second. Now open up your loop slightly, your working loop, and secure this loop with the stitch marker. So insert a stitch marker in this loop. We're now going to work with another color, and we're going to pick up this loop later on. Now go back to the start of this row, so keep the right side facing. Row 53. You still have the right side facing, and you're at the start of the row. I'm going to be using color B. So I have color B here. And what we're going to do is we're going to attach it in the first chain 1 opening. So exactly in this very first one, attach your yarn with the slip stitch. And I'm now going to make it chain 1. That also helps to secure this yarn to our work. Now we're ready to start the repeat. What we're going to do is we're going to come down to the stitch that we missed, and we're going to work a popcorn in there. Now popcorn is 5 double crochets when we're going to take them together. So I'm going to yarn over for the first double crochet, and then in that missed skip, that's missed stitch, skipped stitch from row 51, insert your hook into that stitch and make sure that you fold your work to the back. You do not want to, if I just look like that, you don't want to work over your stitches. So you're going to stay in front of stitches from the previous row. So really fold them to the back. You only want to work in that skipped stitch. And pick up your loop. So you see I've got all my work folded here to the back, and work 1 double crochet. Now in this stitch I need to work 4 more. So that's 2, 3, 4, because you want to work 5 in total, so I need 1 more. You see all the time I've got the rest of my work here to the back. You don't accidentally work over it. You're really working in front of your work. Okay, so now I have these 5 double crochets here. Open up the loop and hold that loop over your index finger, then nothing can happen to it. Now you're going to come back to the first double crochet. That's this one. See, if you can't find it, just open up a little bit. You see, oh, there's the slip stitch, chain 1, then this is the first double. Insert your hook through that stitch. Pick up your working loop again and pull it tight. And now you're going to pull this loop through the first stitch. So pull it through that stitch and make it chain 1. This entire unit, starting from the first double crochet, that's a popcorn. And we're going to be doing quite a few of them because they really give very nice texture. Chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You've made 6 chains here in total, but that first chain belongs to the popcorn, and that's why it isn't given in the pattern, because the first chain belongs to the popcorn. Okay, chain 5. We're now going to skip these 4 doubles and come to the next space, and here we're going to work the next popcorn. So yarn over, insert into this chain space, into this skip stitch, making sure the chain space is to the back, that you don't snag that. And then that's the first double. And again, the first of 5. I just need a bit more yarn. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Open up your work, and now come right back to the very first stitch. Pick up your loop, pull it tight, pull through the first stitch, and chain 1. Again, that's your second popcorn made. You can see that it's not attached to your work in any way except for that stitch there at the bottom. That's correct. Don't worry about that it's a bit floppy at this point. When we do the next row, we'll secure the popcorn to our work. I'll show you the repeat again, and then you're going to do this until you to the last missed chain stitch. Chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Next stitch. In that stitch, work the 5 double crochets. Again, be sure to miss the chain space here to the back. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Again, completely in front of the work from the previous row. Have the loop, hook your loop onto your finger, come to your first stitch, first of those 5 doubles, pick up the loop, pull the loop through the first stitch, chain 1. I've now done the repeat twice with you, so it's a chain 5, popcorn, which includes a chain 1, then chain 5, popcorn, chain 1. That's what I've now done with you. I'm going to do this for every space until you're to the other side. I'll see you for the last popcorn. I'll make that one with you again. But for now, chain 5, popcorn in the missed stitch, and be sure to leave your work at the back, that you don't work over that. And then I'll see you for the last popcorn. And remember that yes, you have 6 chains here between the popcorns, but the first one belongs to the popcorn, and that's why it's not in the pattern. I'm almost to the end. I've got this last chain space and that missed stitch. I still need to work a popcorn in there. You see now you've got this whole chain of popcorns all in front of your work, and that's correct. So I've just completed this popcorn with a chain 1 to secure it. I'll just move everything a bit. So now it's chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then here in the final skipped stitch, work the last popcorn, and again fold everything to the back. Then you prevent snagging stitches from the previous row. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Open up this loop, come back to the first double, pick up the loop, pull through, chain 1. That completes the last popcorn. We're now going to secure this end to our work. So come into the chain 1 space that's here to the back and work a slip stitch in there. That will just help to secure your work a bit. At this point you can cut yarn B and open up this loop. You've now worked your first row of popcorns. You're going to come back in color A, and now we're going to secure them to our work. Row 54, you have the wrong side facing, and we're just going to start by picking up the loop that we secured with the stitch marker. So I'm just going to pick up that loop. There we go. And my yarn tail is here to the back. Start with a chain 3. Now this is a first double crochet. So that's your first double. And now come to the second stitch here. It's before the chain 1 space, that second stitch, and work a double crochet on there. And we're now going to work a back post double crochet around the popcorn. Now you've already learned what a back post stitch is, yarn over, but you're doing it now from a weird direction perhaps. So you're now going to insert your hook basically behind the popcorn. Pick up your loop and complete the double crochet. And by doing so, you're pinching the popcorn into place. We're now working the repeat unit. You see here the chain 5 loop. We're going to be working behind this loop. So that means you pull this loop forward, and then here in the stitches behind, going to work into those. You're going to work a double crochet onto each of those. So make sure that you can see those stitches. So here's the first stitch. You're going to have 4 of those. That's 1, 2. So you see here I'm working behind the chain space. This is 3, and there should be a last one here. There you go, 4. Okay. So now you've worked those 4 double crochets behind the popcorn. You can see, or behind the popcorn, I mean behind the chain space. And this space will remain loose like this, but the stitches are in front, behind the chain space. So if you look at it from the front, you see that chain space is now invisible. And then finishing the repeat by working again a back post double crochet around the popcorn. So that's yarn over, and then from the back around the popcorn. So in this case it basically comes around to just inserting your hook underneath the popcorn and complete the double crochet. This is your repeat unit, starting here with the 4 doubles and then the back post. I'll show you the repeats again. A little bit more yarn. So again, be sure to really find those stitches that are behind the chain space. So you can really pull that space forward that you can work behind it. 1, 2, 3, and here's the last one, that stitch there, and this is 4. And now around the popcorn, back post double crochet. Now I've worked the repeat twice, and indeed here from the front you can really now see that you see only the popcorns. This chain space is now hidden by the stitches that are behind it. Show the repeat once more, and then you continue this until you're to the last popcorn, and then you'll have 2 stitches left. That's the point. I'll see you again. But for now, pull these stitches forward. 1, 2, 3, and here's number 4. That's just in front of the chain space. This is number 4, and then a back post double around the popcorn. There you go. So that was the repeat 3 times. Continue with this until you're to the last popcorn, and then you'll finish with that last back post double, and that's the point where I'll see you again. When you're at the end of the row, you'll make your last front post stitch around the last popcorn here, and then you have 2 stitches left. On those 2 stitches, work a double crochet on each. 1 and 2. And this last one is a turning chain 3, so just insert your hook there on the top. And that completes row 54. Turn your work. For the next rows, we're going to be in essence repeating this idea that we just did. We're going to work a row of doubles on which we skip a stitch every once in a while. Then we're going to work popcorns in that skip stitch, and then we're going to come back with a row of double crochets and post stitches as we just did. The only difference, however, is the position where we're going to start. Now we started here with the first popcorn, and then our next popcorn is going to be in this position, and then the row after that the popcorn is going to be here. So you're going to get this diagonal line on either side, and that's just a detail because I thought it was nice. But the idea of how we're going to work this is going to remain the same. Let's get started. I'm going to start with the chain 3. That's again your popcorn. And now in the next 4 stitches, going to work a double. So not the first one, but come to the second. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So in this first 7 stitches you've now worked a double crochet. So it was a chain 3 and then 6 more doubles. Now we're going to start a small repeat unit, and that's going to be the same as the repeat unit from 2 rows down. So that's a chain 1, skip the next stitch, and that next stitch should be the back post stitch here from the previous row. So skip that stitch and then come to the next and work 4 doubles. 2, 3, and 4. Now you can see you've again made a small hole here, and they will work a popcorn again in the same way as we've done before. So this little unit, chain 1, skip a stitch and 4 doubles, going to repeat that until you have 8 stitches left. 8 stitches. So chain 1, skip the next stitch, and then work 4 doubles. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I've now done the repeat twice with you. Repeat this until you're to the other side. You'll have 8 stitches left. When you have 8 stitches left, stop. That's the point where I'll see you again. When you have 8 stitches left, you will have arrived at your second last popcorn from the previous row. We're now going to finish this half actually the same as we did on the first part of this row. So that means chain 1. I'm going to skip this stitch, which here is the front post stitch, and then on the last 7 stitches work a double. So that means this side is symmetric to the first half. And 2, 3, 4, 5. This here is number 6. And the last one here on the turning chain 3. Insert your hook in there for the last stitch. There you go. So now you have your last chain space above the second last popcorn here. So this is all solid. Again, insert a stitch marker in your working loop. Secure that loop because we're going to pick it up later on. Secure the loop. And then go back to the start of this row, so the right side facing, go back to the start for a row of popcorns. Row 56, we're again going to work popcorns, and you need color D at this point. We're actually going to do exactly the same as we've done before, only the place where we're going to start is different. So you're going to have 2 popcorns less in this row. But I'll show you again. Insert your hook into the chain space, into the first chain space, and chain 1. And that's just to secure your yarn to your work. Now come down to the stitch below here, skipping everything here to the back. So be sure that your work is to the back, and complete your first double. That's 1, and you need 5, of course. So this is 2, 3, 4, 5 doubles. Open up your loop, come back to the very first stitch, the first of those doubles, pick up the loop again, pull through, chain 1. That's your first popcorn. Now you're going to repeat again, chain 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, and come to the next space and work a popcorn in the skipped stitch. And this you're going to repeat until you're to the end, exactly the same as before. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 doubles. Open up the loop, come back to the first of the 5 stitches, pull through, chain 1. Now you've worked 2 popcorns, and you need another chain 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. And now you're going to come to this skipped stitch and work a popcorn in there. Repeat, repeat, repeat till you're to the other side. So a popcorn in every stitch, and then a chain 5, and then a popcorn in the next skipped stitch. And remember, it's chain 5, but actually you're working 6 chains because the popcorn also has a chain 1. So repeat this till you're to the other side, and I'll just show you the last popcorn as well. I'm almost to the end of the row. See here, I've done all the popcorns, the chain stitches in between. And at this point you have one chain 1 space left with a skipped stitch, and then you have the stretch to the end. So you see your last popcorn is going to line up with your second last popcorn from the previous row, and this is going to be the diagonal that we're going to start building here. So in this last stitch is the last popcorn. So again, 5 doubles in that space. That's 2, 3, 4, this here is number 5. 5 doubles, open up the loop, come back to the first stitch, pick up your loop, pull through, and chain 1. And that completes the last popcorn, and we're again going to secure the yarn by slip stitching through the chain 1 space here to the back. That way we're just going to secure this yarn to our work, and I just need to find my clippers again. As usual, I've got them somewhere, and you can cut your yarn and pull through. And there we go. Now you can turn your work, and I'm going to pick up the loop and color A again. Row 57, you have the wrong side of your work facing. I'm just going to start by just picking up the working loop. So I still have it in my stitch marker on there. So just slightly pull up that loop because it might have actually just gone a bit into your fabric. And pick up the loop. There we go. Now we're ready to get started. In this row we're going to be securing the popcorns, and it's going to be very similar to what we've done before. We're going to work a double crochet on every stitch, and indeed work behind the chain spaces again, and around the popcorns a back post double crochet. I'm going to start with a chain 3. This is your first double, and then on the next 6 stitches work a double as well. So the first stitch is already made, so come to the second position, and that's your second stitch. And now we work the rest, so you're going to have 7 doubles here in total, so that's 6 plus the chain 3. I might go slightly faster because this is it's actually the same as what we've done before. You've only got a few more double crochets here at the beginning. So 7 doubles, and now we're at the popcorn here. I'm just going to pull this yarn tail to make sure that it's nice and secure there. And now starts the popcorn with a back post double crochet around that popcorn. And take off, and take off. And at the end I'll show you how to work away these yarn tails. Don't worry about that for the moment. Again, working behind the chain space, so pull up your fabric if needed. You can really get into these 4 stitches behind the chain space. Work 4 doubles. So 1, 2, 3, and the last one here, you always just need to grab a bit for it, and that's 4. Now you're at the next popcorn, so that's a back post stitch around the popcorn, and that means now you're securing this popcorn to your work, as you can see from the front. And repeat this until you're to the end. I'll show you the repeat one more time. 4 stitches behind, 4 double crochet stitches behind the chain space. And be sure to not split your yarn. And then here is number 4, and then back post double around the popcorn. There we go. Repeat this until you're to your last popcorn. I'll see you just before the last popcorn on the other side. So you're going to do quite a few more of these repeats, and I'll see you on the other side. Almost to the end again. I have the last popcorn left to do, so work a back post double around the last popcorn, and then on your last 7 stitches work a double crochet on every stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and here the last one is on the turning chain 3, that counts as a double. Insert your hook in the top stitch of the stitch, chain 3, and complete your last double. There you go. Turn your work for the next row. Row 58. We're again going to work in doubles and chain 1s and skipping stitches, and the pattern, the rhythm that I want you to start seeing is we're now going to continue with the doubles until again we get to the second popcorn of the previous row. So you see how you're going to work a diagonal. So that means we're going to start by working the first stitches. 13 stitches, or 12 stitches I should say. The first is a chain 3, so that counts as the first double, and now work a double crochet on the next 11 stitches. So the first stitch is already worked, so come to the second. So 1, 2, continue until you have 11, 3, and this is the last stitch. There we go. Now you have 12 doubles, including the chain 3 at the beginning. Your next stitch is going to be this front post stitch, and this is also where your repeat is going to start again. So chain 1, skipping the front post, then work 4 doubles. And 4. And again, chain 1, skip the next stitch, which is going to be the front post stitch, and then work 4 doubles. And you're going to repeat these chain 1, skip a stitch, and the 4 doubles until you're basically to the height of the second last popcorn. At that point you will have 13 stitches left. So you're going to repeat this until you're to the second last popcorn on the other side. Repeat, and then I'll see you there. At this moment you have 13 stitches left, and you're at the height of the second last popcorn from the previous row. Just work the 4 double crochets. Now it's chain 1, skip the next stitch, which is going to be a front post stitch, and then on the last stitches to the end work a double crochet on every stitch, and that's going to be 12 stitches in total. This is 3. Now continue to the end. My yarn is not cooperating. And this is the last double on the full stitch, and your very last one is of course here on the turning chain 3, which counts as a stitch. There we go. Now again, secure this loop with a stitch marker. There you go. You can see how your last opening is above the second last popcorn from the previous row. Now go back to the start of this row and we're going to work popcorns again. For row 59 you're again going to work a row of popcorns, and I've already done them here. You're going to do that exactly the same way as you've done in these previous 2 rows. The only difference is you're going to start at 1 position sooner, so that's this position here. So you have again 2 less popcorns than you had in the row before. But for the rest, I mean, you've attached here your yarn in the same way. Everything is exactly the same. So I encourage you at this point to use the written pattern to make these popcorns. And if you feel uncomfortable, go back to a row or 2 before in the video, because the process is exactly the same. So attaching the yarn, working the popcorns and the chain 5s in between, right up to the end. The color that you're using for this row of popcorns is color C. Row 60, you have the wrong side facing. Just going to pick up the loop by removing the stitch marker. And there we go. And now we're going to work the same process. So it's chain 3, and now a double crochet on the next 11 stitches, which will bring us to the first popcorn. That means in the second position, see that's the first one, come to the second position. Work 11 doubles, then you'll have 12 in total. Just a few more, a bit more yarn, and the last double. There we go. Now you're at the first popcorn. Around the popcorn, a back post, double crochet. There we go. And now we're again going to work that repeat unit where we work behind the chain spaces and around the popcorns. So just finding this fabric behind the chain space, work 4 doubles in there. I mean, this you've done quite a few times before already, so I think you'll be familiar with this by now. And the last one here, and then around the popcorn, back post. There we go. Double crochet. There we go. And again, that nicely ties the popcorn to your work. Repeat this until you're to the very last popcorn. So 4 doubles behind the chain space in there, and then a front post double around the popcorn. Repeat this working behind the chain spaces, that's very important, until you're to the last popcorn. And again, towards the end of the row, I'm going to work my last front post double around the very last popcorn. And now work a double crochet on every stitch to the end. And these are 12 doubles in total. And again, this is very similar to what we've done before. And 2 more. This one. And this is the last stitch on the chain 3. Just poke your hook in there. There we go. And that's it. End of the row again. Turn your work for the preparation of the last rows, the last set of rows to make the last popcorn. Row 61. I'm going to start with the same idea, working double crochets until we're to the second popcorn. And that means we start with the chain 3 again, which counts as a double crochet. And now in the next 16 stitches, which will bring you here, work a double crochet. So the first stitch of course already worked, so come to the second. I'm going to work 16, so that's quite a bit of a longer stretch. This is 4, and we'll continue until we have 16. And the last one. Oh, there, I don't know, I've split that yarn there a bit. I'm just going to work that one again. There we go, that's better. Right, now you've got all your double crochets. That's 17 in total. Your next stitch should be the front post double that's around the second popcorn. And now you have that small repeat unit again. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, and then work 4 doubles. And again you're going to repeat that till you're to the basically the second last popcorn on the other side, the same as 2 rows before. Only difference is you'll now have more stitches left. So you're going to repeat this until you have, I believe, 17 or 18 stitches left. Yeah, 18 stitches. But it's easier to remember is that you're going to repeat this until you're to the second last popcorn at the other side. So this chain 1, skip a stitch, and 4 doubles. Repeat till you're to the second last popcorn. And again, when you have 18 stitches left, you're at the second last popcorn. And what you're going to do now is the same as before. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, that's this front post treble. And then in the last 17 stitches, work a double crochet on every stitch until you're to the end. Yes, this is the second last stitch. And the last stitch is here on the turning chain. There we go. Now you've again got your last opening above the second last popcorn, and again hook up a stitch marker in your working loop to keep it safe. For row 62 you're going to work your last row of popcorns exactly the way as we've done before, and now you can really see this diagonal on either side of your blanket. For the popcorns this row you're going to work in color F, and the method of working is exactly the same. From the first chain space work a popcorn in the skipped stitch up until the last one. If all goes right, you've got 25 popcorns at this point. Row 63, you have the wrong side facing. Again, just going to pick up the loop from color A, and it's the same as before. So chain 3 and then a double crochet on every stitch and a back post double, to skip the first stitch, and then a back post double around the popcorns. We're first just going to start and work 16 more doubles. That'll bring you to 17 in total, including the chain 3. So I'm just going to work a double until I get to the popcorn. Yes, I've got 2 more left. There we go. So now you've worked this first number of doubles. You now add the first popcorn, and again here a back post double around the first popcorn. And now this is again the same repeat as before. So I'm just going to go a bit faster. Behind the loops, pull up your fabric, behind the chain 5 space, and work 4 doubles, 1 on every stitch. That's 4 doubles, and then come and around the popcorn work a front post stitch. And this you're going to repeat until you're to the other side, so until you're to the last popcorn, the 4 doubles and the front post stitch. I'm at the last popcorn stitch already. Work a front post double around the last popcorn, and then in every stitch until the end a double crochet. Oh, good grief, can you hear my cat moaning? He's outside, he wants to come in, and he's convinced that I'm the doorman. So we work a double crochet on every stitch until we're to the end here, and that's going to be 17 double crochets. And a few stitches left. And here, of course, the turning chain. Work a double crochet in there. There you go. So now, since the popcorn, you've worked 17 doubles. Turn your work for the last row of this part. Row 64, you have the wrong side facing, and this row is going to be a snooze row. It's a double crochet on every stitch. That means the first one is a chain 3, there you go, and then a double on every stitch. So on the second stitch you start and complete a double on every stitch, and when you're to the other side you can cut your yarn and fasten off, because that's it for this week. Then you're finished. So continue till you're to the other side and then fasten off. I'd like to look with you at yarn tails. Here at the back of your work you have these yarn tails from the popcorns and the chains. Now, how to best work away these yarn tails? Now I would like to work them into the chains that are here to the back. So I thread the yarn on my needle. And I'll just zoom in a bit so you can perhaps see it a bit better. Now what I like to do is here is the chain, and I work literally into that chain. So with the yarn on my needle, I just loop it through the chain. So you see, I'm really sticking the needle really in the middle of the chain, and then thread the yarn in. Just pulling the one tail, there we go. And don't pull this too tight, because it'll misform your popcorn here at the on the front. You don't want that. And I'll just take it a little bit longer to here, and then I'm gonna go back the other direction. And then one more time. So I'm really going straight through the chain. And yes, the chain becomes a bit thicker here because of the yarn that's going through, but really that doesn't matter. There we go. And then I can cut my yarn. And there we go. And you see now you've got this yarn tail nicely worked away, and you don't see, you don't really see it anymore. It says it's slightly thicker, but it's very neat right now. And this is also how to work away the other yarn tails that you have on this side and also on the other side of the blanket. So I'll just zoom out a bit more because you'll have them on the other side as well. And you'll also have your color A yarn tail here, also work away that yarn tail. It's easiest because we're going to be swapping our worker again next time. So work away all your yarn tails into the chain spaces. If we just look at the size of the blanket, the length is of course still unchanged, 125 centimeters, and your width at this point is give or take 75. And if you look at the edge here, you'll see this nice little diagonal of popcorns that you'll also have on the other side. So your width is at about 75 centimeters, and next week we'll add the last part to the blanket, then it has its full and final size. Brings us to the end of this video. I hope to see you next week for the last part.